Hi, my name is Tosha Silver, and I'm the author of a book some of you may know called Outrageous Openness, Letting the Divine Take the Lead. And I'm also the author of a book that'll be out soon in May called Change Me Prayers, The Hidden Power of Spiritual Surrender. If you've read Outrageous Openness, some of you may have known there's this story that's in it about, well, there's actually more than one story about Jesus and about Easter. Because even though I'm not a Christian and I grew up with 6 rabbis in my family, and I'm actually not much of a Jew either, I'm just somebody who's in love with God on the interior plane. The story of Jesus and Easter has always really captivated me. And I've wanted to make a video about it for some time because what I was writing about in OO is that energy of the crucifixion that gets presented as if, okay, there's this amazing being who was tortured and crucified and the horror of all that, and then was reborn. It's a very powerful story in itself, but I also think it's an interior transformation that's available to absolutely anybody, regardless of religion and regardless of belief systems. There is a transformation that can happen when the small self is actually offered over to the great self inside. And every year, as we come to Good Friday and Easter, and my Jewish friends are always like, why do you think about this stuff? You should be thinking about Passover. And I like Passover too. But there's this immanent power to me about what does it mean to die to love. People use that term, like they'll go, oh, I'm dying to love somebody, or I'm dying to be loved, or I'm dying to have a baby, or I'll die if I don't get famous, or, whatever somebody's shtick is, whatever somebody's thing is. And I think there's a very different meaning to what dying to love can mean if you're actually thinking about it as capital L, love, not just this small self. Because then, there's a tradition from India that some of you may know, and it's the Bhakti tradition. And in the Bhakti tradition, love becomes a vehicle that eventually destroys the small self. You offer everything to this force of love, and then eventually the interior great self takes over. But it doesn't come from giving God a shopping list of like, okay, bring me my next lover, or bring me this, or bring me that. It actually comes from taking the deepest attachment. See, this is why it's so great, because it's not about dying to something that you don't care about. Like, it's not about, I don't really care if I get a parking space or not, because those things are easy to offer to the divine. If you go to whatever that one thing is for you, whether it's, I'll die if I don't meet the right partner, or I'll die if I don't have that baby, or I'll die if I don't get the right job, or I'll die if I don't get my parents' love, whatever that thing is, if you go to that one place and that becomes the offering that you make to love, to that capital L love, something absolutely unbelievable occurs. That's actually, to me, the crucifixion and the resurrection. Because when you make that offering, and it's definitely not an intellectual offering. It's not like, oh, that's a nice idea. I think I'll do that and sound spiritual and tell everybody. It's not that. When you actually take that one thing, whatever it is, and say, I'm now handing this to the interior divine. If it's meant to happen, great, I'm offering it to you. But if it's not meant to happen, make me okay with that. Transform me into somebody that can offer that love, my deepest, deepest desire, whatever it is. Turn me into somebody that can offer that over to the divine. The offering itself can actually be very painful. When it's not intellectual, you're actually taking something that maybe your whole life you've yearned for. And you're not saying you shouldn't want it. You're not spanking yourself. You're not saying, oh, if you were a really evolved person, you wouldn't want that thing, whatever it is. It's not that. You're feeling the depth of your longing for that thing. You're in a human body. You're feeling the depth of that longing. And at the same time, you're saying, I am willing to embrace the inconceivable. I'm willing to say yes to the inconceivable. Now, not in that typical New Age way that like, oh, the inconceivable, I'll get everything that the ego wants and miracles will rain down on me. It's not that. It's you're saying yes, even to, okay, if I'm not meant to have that child, so be it. Or if I'm not meant to have that partner, so be it. Or if I'm not meant to have that job, so be it. Whatever that one thing is, that's that part that's kept from the divine. That part that says, yes, you can have all of me, but not this. Don't make me have this. Don't make me not have this. That piece, when that is offered to the divine, allowing for the depth of the feeling and at the same time saying, yes, even that, make me okay with that. Then you enter this realm of intimacy with the divine that can not happen, in my experience, any other way. It doesn't come from giving God a shopping list of like, bring me this and bring me that and we'll co-create it together and why haven't you brought this yet and let me give you a time frame of when I need this by. It's none of that. That's not intimacy. That's, to me, a way of approaching the universe that some people do, but it's more of a list. It's more of a series of subtle demands in a way. This is like saying, I'm ready for that oneness with that interior self. And in order to do that, I'm going to take whatever the one thing is that would be my personal crucifixion. And any person can do that because it's not the crucifixion of your body. It's the crucifixion of the small self. And you can feel it in your own self. Everybody has that place where you go, anything but that. Anything but that. And as soon as you say, okay, yes, that, whatever that is, it's all right. So it's not necessarily a physical body crucifixion. It's a crucifixion of the small egoic self that says, I need these things, I want these things. Because as soon as they're fully offered, or especially that one thing is fully offered, then the great self, the interior divine, has all of this room. It's really untethered. It has all of this room to bring whatever is needed, because it's no longer constricted by, I want this, I want this, I want this, when will this happen? Again, it has nothing to do with denying the desire. You know, to me, desires come from being in a physical body. They're part of the embodied humanness. So it's not about blaming oneself for having the desire, but that the full offering is what then creates the space. No matter how painful that full offering is, you can feel like you're dying when you're making that offering, because you're really saying, even the deepest dream, make it okay if that doesn't come true. Because sometimes, once you've done everything possible to help a dream come true, and you've offered it completely to the divine, there's nothing to do but that bow, that inner surrender. So you may wonder, how do you know if you've done everything conceivable about a particular desire? If you've given it your all, and maybe you shouldn't offer it if you haven't given it your all yet. And if you're thinking that, I would say you probably haven't read Outrageous Openness yet, and you should, because the way that I found that this works is that so very much that's out there in the New Age world and in the manifestation world is about the deepest desires belonging to the ego. And that's why we have so many books about, you know, how to make your wishes come true and wishes fulfilled and blah, blah, blah. But if your deepest wish is that intensity of intimacy with the divine, and by that I don't mean this guy in the sky, I mean that interior force of love, which is you, inside you. If you offer whatever that desire is to the divine from the beginning, I'm not trying to say this like, do everything, work really hard, and then maybe when all else is exhausted, give this to the divine. What I'm saying is, from the beginning, give it to the divine. Break out of the illusion that it belongs to the ego. It never belonged to the ego. You can look at anything that you have in your life, whether it's a wonderful partner or a child or a home or a yoga practice, whatever it is, that came to you through grace from the divine. So to me, and you know, if I get hit by a car tonight, everything I leave behind is going to get left behind. Nothing goes with you when you leave, so none of it is ours. So if it's offered from the beginning, then you can say, okay, God, this all belongs to you. This is yours. And if it's meant to be, bring it however you wish, but free me from the enslavement that says, I can't live without this. So the offering is really available right from the beginning, and it's, you can feel in your own heart once you've done it. And sometimes, as I was saying before, it can be painful. It can be painful to offer it because somebody's saying inside, what will happen if I offer it and then I don't get this thing I want so much? But ironically, what really happens is that when it's offered fully and completely, you become whole. You become whole. You die to love. That's really the meaning. The grasping self. There's a great word in Sanskrit called aparigraha, and it's the grasping, it's the part of the fist that grabs and says, I need this, I have to have it, I need it. And as soon as the hand is open, ironically, that's when you become open to receive. And then the key turns in the lock. Now, the key that turns in the lock might be that the desire actually comes true, because ironically, that is so often when desires hatch, when you're no longer a slave to them. And to me, that enslavement occurs because the person is saying, I want this, whatever this is, I want this more than I want my own wholeness. I want this, bring this. But instead, you're actually saying, no, I want God more. And what's God but that inner wholeness, that you're fine. You are fine with or without it. You're whole with or without it. And then, if it's meant to be, the thing can come as a preference, not as this raging thing that you will die without. Well, you will die when it's offered, but in the most beautiful, beautiful way, even if it's initially painful. So that's why I love this story about Jesus on the cross. I love it so much. And that sentence where, they say, whosoever shall try to save her life shall lose it. But whosoever shall lose her life shall save it. There, I just made it all feminine because I think it's about time we get some female pronouns in here. But this idea that if you're busy protecting the desires, you're saying, they're mine, I have to have them, I need them, I'll just desire more, and maybe they'll come. My experience is that isn't what takes you into divine intimacy. It might bring a desire or two, but you can also lose them. But when you're actually being willing to offer it and lose it, then you get a kind of interior salvation that comes to your rescue because you're no longer identifying with the small self. And that is available to anyone. So I would suggest you try this and you think about a burning desire that you have that maybe is holding you captive and torturing you. And offer it over in a very deep way. Very, very deep way. And if you don't know how to do that, find my book because it will tell you how to do it. But offer it from the depths of your heart and ask to be changed into somebody who can be okay either way, whether it occurs or not, and you will be changed. And that, to me, is one of the deepest meanings of Easter. So, thank you for listening.